Sabotage.
Save the trees. Jam up on them. It's not the direct action we need to be.
Yeah.
That's got it. Let's be a little bit more strategic.
They talk about it all the time.
Oh. Although my context is more vague, so.
Yes. Well, how do you get up there?
I told her.
Hi, I'm Greg. I'm talking to you today. Yeah. Are you the lead pastor?
I'm the pastor interim.
Oh, fine. Can I grab a photo of the three together? As a thank you for hosting us. We appreciate it. Ready? 1, 2. Thank you. Can I grab a photo with you together? Sure. I just realized I forgot to do that.
Yeah, should we look at it appropriate?
Oh, yeah, if you want. Big smile, friend. 1, 2, 3. Now look at the camera. Natural. Love it.
This is great. How's it feel? How you feeling?
Hey, how are you, Ryan?
To the side seated section.
Oh, you're welcome to sit with us. I'd say like 1 or 2 more minutes, and then we should be good to go.
Sounds good. I think Mike's putting chairs up out there if they need them. I saw them on there. So. Yeah, they're putting chairs up there. Sure, huh?
You're starting us up. Yeah.
Okay.
You're welcoming us, and then I'll take over after you.
Francois? Yep.
Well, welcome. Welcome to the
Bushnell, and I'm part of the Hamilton Park Climate Action Neighborhood, also an interim pastor here at Hamilton Park. We're delighted to have you with us. And so one of the things I wanted to share very briefly is that we have a spaghetti supper. Our Hamilton Park Climate Action Neighborhood began a couple of years ago with a farm-to-table dinner. We had about 50 people there, and out of that became a nucleus for our Climate Action Neighborhood. We've done a lot of stuff, and on the back I have this little flyer that we'll give you downstairs if you want it, and describes a little bit about what we've done as a Climate Action Neighborhood. And then this spaghetti supper that we're having on March 1st is going to be resourced by the people that are listed in the back. But we're excited about the possibility of other Climate Action Neighborhoods everywhere. And so maybe you'll be a seed to do that. I have to tell you the important stuff, where the bathrooms are. If you go right straight through this hallway, there's 2 bathrooms there. You can't miss them. On the right, if you go into my office, please don't go to the bathroom in my office. But then downstairs, if you go down these steps to the social hall, which we hope will do that at the end of this program time, there are bathrooms right there at the bottom of the steps, okay? And if you need help getting downstairs, we do have, it's a very slow chair, but it'll get you there, right out here, and somebody will be there to guide you down. So, thanks for coming, for filling the place up. And who's on next? Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'd like to say a special thanks to Dave Bushnell for hosting us here at Hamilton Park Church. As he said, this was the birthplace of our very first Climate Action Neighborhood, and I'd like to thank you all for showing up here on a cold, cold day when the Eagles are playing. When I say go birds, I also mean the native ones who are an important part of our local ecosystem. Go birds. My name is Aiden Fife, and I am the Director of Community Engagement with RegenAll. And tonight we are going to be doing some community engagement, not just to you, but between all of us. And this event was conceived to do just that. We wanted an opportunity to share the work we've been doing and to hear about what you want to do going forward into 2025. We're going to be presenting for the next hour with plenty of breaks to talk to your neighbors, and we'll even include some poetry and song. After we wrap up here, we will go downstairs to the social hall and do some socializing. There'll be over 10 organizations represented at tables downstairs who can help you think about how you might want to engage this year. We want to hear from you, and we want you to hear from each other. I want to start by getting us on the same page. As Dr. Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson writes in her critical book, which I will be referencing heavily this evening, it's called What If We Get It Right? Here it is. She says that 62% of U.S. adults feel that they have a personal sense of responsibility to help reduce the impacts of climate change. But 51% of us say we don't know where to start. That's why we're here. Let's be real that we are small players in a big game. Let's hold large corporations and governments responsible. But real change can start on a regional level. RegenAll is a nonprofit organization that does outreach and education around climate change on a regional level. Climate change is a big and scary concept, and frankly, really hard to wrap one's head around. But let's try now. I have my degree in environmental science, and we often looked at diagrams that look like this. As you can see, we have the sun shining down, consistently warming us, even if it doesn't feel like it right now. And the issue at hand here, since the Industrial Revolution, has been that various greenhouse gases including carbon dioxide, methane, and others, have been creating a warm blanket around the globe that traps heat inside. As I've seen in my short lifetime, our planet is warming at a rapid timescale. As you can see in this chart from 1895 to present in Pennsylvania's temperatures, you can see how much warmer it has been in the past 20 years. Red is warm and blue is cold. When you look on a global scale, however, it becomes even more clear. We have seen a precipitous increase in global temperatures, which has all sorts of consequences, be they wildfires in the dead of winter in California, or hurricanes like Hurricane Helene, or extreme flooding on this coast. As a part-time farmer, I know this weather has been weird. Part of what we're going to work on tonight, though, is going beyond data and telling our own climate stories. Talking about climate science is honestly difficult, but we humans are really good at storytelling. Many climate stories and documentaries understandably talk about the problems for 90% of the time, and then maybe give you 10% of the time at the end to think about solutions. We're going to try and do the opposite here. We're going to talk about the problems for maybe 10%, and the rest of the time, the rest of this evening, we're going to be thinking about how to solve them. So our work here is very solutions-oriented. We have all the tools at our disposal, but we just need to figure out how to use them. When we think about approaches to these problems, the one broad category of action you might probably have heard of is mitigation, figuring out how we can stop emitting so many greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. This is not an all or nothing proposition. Every 10th of a degree less warming means that a whole host of rippling consequences are avoided. We also need to honestly think about adaptation. How can we adapt to changing climates and create resilience in these conditions? We see that both of these efforts may be stalling at a federal level, but that doesn't mean that we can't keep building these deep community networks and pushing for something better on the local level. Whether we are mitigating or adapting, doing so collectively is key. We're going to need everyone's involvement here. We should look at our local leaders and politicians who make policy decisions. Which, speaking of, do we have anyone running for local office, running an election, involved in local government here this evening? You can raise your hand, stand up. Thank you for showing up. And we're going to need you to show up for us going forward. As Ayana wrote in this book, we're going to need more than politicians. We're going to need teachers, farmers, mutual aid organizers, green building retrofitters, and wind turbine installers, and nurses, and accountants, and engineers, and designers, and local politicians, and project managers, and train conductors, and activists. In other words, we're going to need everyone. And to do anything collectively, we need to get together and talk about it. To bring about good conversation, we need to build a culture around what it means to create regeneration. Regeneration is beyond just sustaining us to the next generation, but thinking about how we can regenerate our depleting resources. What if we considered creating not just survivable, but better, more just futures for our young people today and future generations? In order to do so, we must create culture around regeneration and build community around doing so. Climate is so often thought of just as a purely scientific and intellectual conversation. Let the experts handle it. But we want to make room for issues not just of the head, but of the heart. People love to talk about food, about music, about art. And the new year is a great time to start new traditions, to start intentionally considering our next moves and to reflect. This is the very first climate town hall here in Lancaster, and certainly not the first of its kind. Definitely the first I have been to. Has anyone been to a climate town hall before? I didn't think so. Welcome. Can we curate welcoming, non-judgmental, solutions-oriented spaces like this? How about we take our carbon inventory, which RegenAll did for the very first time a couple years ago in Lancaster, and make them into actual edible pies that people can share together and think about how to eat away at their emissions while enjoying pie. That's a later problem. How about we share stories and sing songs together? And how about we bring amazing artists to share their gifts, to shed light on our climate and regenerative solutions? Can we make a stakeholder meeting serious, but also, dare I say, fun? Let's start some new traditions tonight. Speaking of amazing artists, I am really excited to bring forward Sir Dominique Jordan, a local poet who beautifully combines his art and activism. I met Sir Dom picking up trash around storm drains at a River Connections event hosted by College Park Climate Action Neighborhood. I'm inspired by the way he brings people together around spoken word. Here's an original poem he wrote for this event called Time is Ticking, Chimes of Change. Thank you guys.
First off, can everybody hear me? Are we good? Like, when I get started, I'm gonna get louder, but I'm really honored to be here. To see this place fill up like this, I like walked away for a second and kind of get prepared, and I got back and got really, really nervous. But before I keep going, can we just clap it up for ourselves for coming out here for such a positive and thank y'all for allowing me to write this poem. Sometimes as an artist, activist, artivist, I like to say, you gotta find your lane and find your space, right? And I'm always reminded about how important my art is and how important my voice is because somebody else can hear it and somebody else can relate. When I first got asked to write this poem, I was actually preparing for, I'm gonna call it a trek, an expedition. It was my first time ever going to a tropical island. I just got back from Hawaii probably like a week ago, maybe, like 2 weeks ago. And I'd never been anywhere like that before. And before I left, obviously it was snowing a little bit. I can't wait to get up out of here. We're going to wait for this poem, you know. But getting to Hawaii and seeing the space, and it's like the only place in the world where you get all 4 seasons on one place, right? And it inspired a lot of what I wrote in my poem. And it also made me realize how much we take for granted the weather that we did have and the weather that we do have, and how we can, come together to prevent some of the things that, I don't know about y'all, but like there were moments this year and last year, everybody's excited about being outside. I'm like, oh, it's about to be Christmas. Like, are y'all tripping right now? Like, I don't want it to be like this right now. So, yeah. And with that being said, this piece, Time is Ticking, Chimes of Change, is not just for me, it's not just for you, but it's for we. Can we say that? It's for who? We. It's for who? We. All right, remember that, because we're going to need that. The tempest of time tolls. The clock is counting down. The future is not ours to own. The time for action is now. We must rise up and atone. Fossil fuels fray the future of Mother Nature, the very fabric of our soul. Lancaster's landscapes once lush for the damage we have done to our planet, our home. Now layers of looming haze, the effects of climate change, verdant valleys, now victims due to volatile yet preventable climate waves. Across our local communities, a new hope rises, impacting every part of our lives. Rising seas, warming temps, just a few of RegenAll's rallying cries, rustling through royal retreats, and since extreme weather now thrives, we hit the streets to a new regenerative beat. And it's not just up to you or up to me, but it's up to who? We. It's up to who? We. Because we have the power to change and lead the way by localizing climate solutions. We may reverse this dire fate if we work together as one. It's not too late to create a new path to a brighter day, from organic farms to clean water action, Refugee resettlement, a guiding light in Lancaster County can be a model of how to make climate wrongs, climate rights. Gather the guardians, brave gardeners of green, coordinating climate crusaders, creating a community serene. Let's heed the call to action. Roll up our sleeves, get our hands dirty. The time for talk has passed us by. Putting in the collective work seems to be the best way to preserve this earth. With our voices, our hearts, our hands, our planet deserves a sustainable future regime. And if it's to be, it's not just up to you or up to me, but who? Me. That's my piece. Thank y'all.
Jeez. Friends, I'll take that. Thank you guys. Y'all are so nice. Oh my goodness. Come on, friends. That's crazy. Well, my name is Sir Dominique Jordan. I appreciate you all and would love to meet with y'all before we get out of here.
Thanks, man. That was quick.
We could probably just call it at that. Thank you so much, Sir Dom. Well, good afternoon. Thanks again to Hamilton Park here for hosting. So we started planning this climate town hall a few months before the election. We knew that regardless of the outcome, we'd probably all have some things on our minds, and I believe that is certainly the case. If you followed the news this week, there have been a number of environmental executive orders. We, as a nation, have withdrawn from Paris, are reversing course on EVs, rescinding environmental justice initiatives, blocking new wind energy, and signals that we're seeing from recent memos indicate that the administration is going to break from a number of existing contracts with work that's already proposed and moving forward. So this is a hard time, and I recognize that as we're all coming together. But in this context, I thought it might be helpful to tell RegenAll's story, because I recognize that many of you might not have heard it, and I think it's particularly relevant right now. So the ideas that became RegenAll began coalescing in 2017. There was a group of us that began meeting regularly at the Candy Factory discussing the book Drawdown. Now, Project Drawdown is an organization that looked at the top 100 solutions for reversing global warming across the whole world. And I love this approach because it's focused on solutions, right? And it shows us just how diverse those solutions are. So you can see that there's not just one single thing that'll do it, but it's many different things, and it requires all of us that are involved in that work. And it also shows that there's a financial case. Like if that's the only thing, there's a financial case to doing this work. The solutions pay back almost 3 times the cost of their implementation across the globe. So while this information is helpful and shows us a way forward for the whole Earth, I always felt that, and it didn't tell us what to do. You know, improved rice cultivation, we know isn't a solution for Lancaster, but what are the most important things for here? So it inspired us to collaborate with a group of students at Franklin and Marshall in Millersville to make one of the gnarliest spreadsheets that I've ever been a part of, and work on localizing these drawdown solutions to Lancaster. So that was one of our first step. And this shows us that framework and that idea not only works globally, but also at a local scale too. At the same time, I was, and still am, working as an engineer at a climate-focused, working as an engineer in a climate-focused agricultural program at Team Ag. After a career in sustainability, this is where I really learned about the term regeneration. So instead of degenerating ecosystems or even maintaining, I got to meet farmers who were demonstrating how they could actually bring life back to soils and ecosystems while creating food and fiber. I found that often environmentalists have focused on being less and less bad. And the possibility in that kind of context for regeneration is just really compelling. I had a professor once say, if I had described my marriage as sustainable, you wouldn't be too excited for us, would you? So like that captures some of this spark, this excitement about a regenerative future. So when we look at these together, this idea of RegenAll, that we need to focus on the opportunity for climate solutions at this local and regional scale, plus the idea of regeneration, and then that we might do that everywhere, that's really where the name RegenAll comes from. That the name actually first occurred to me while I was chasing my 2-year-old daughter up and down the steps of Fulton Opera House during a show. I only later realized that I had also been doing a lot of engineering work that week. And if you're familiar with AutoCAD, there's a command called RegenAll that rebuilds the whole model. And I actually think that's also really appropriate because we're at this time where we need to reinvent and reimagine so many different things. So the question that we held at that time was, how are we going to get local leaders to pay attention and implement all this good stuff? And again, remember our context. So this was 2017, and it was clear that climate leadership wasn't going to be a priority at the federal or often at local levels either. In a reality that is not at all different from what we're experiencing now, it was clear that we collectively needed to step up. So one of our first steps was to write the first greenhouse gas inventory for Lancaster County. Could you advance that, please? Awesome. Yeah, so we got some funding and we wrote the greenhouse gas inventory for Lancaster. You can go to the next one. So this is what it looked like. You can see the different parts that will later be pie downstairs. So these are the different sectors of our community, and you can see that from that, about 51% of these emissions are coming from commercial and industrial sectors and from the parts of transportation that are controlled by businesses. Next, if we look at about 37% of the emissions are coming from households, and the remaining 9% or so are coming from Lancaster's farms and solid waste. So this gives us a sense of where we have levers to help make change in regard to where our emissions are right now. And we have used this to inform a lot of our programming that you'll see here in the rest of today. So one of the other things that I think is compelling about this, because emissions numbers are pretty amorphous, but dollars aren't. So we took the amount of fuels that we consume, and we figured out that we collectively spend $2.5 billion every year on fossil fuels. And because Lancaster doesn't have any local fossil fuel extraction, thankfully, that's basically all money that's just going out of our county. And this has been a statistic that in conversations we have, regardless of party, resonates, because we're showing how this is, we can all imagine how we'd rather use money like this to make our communities better. And so that's really a driving core value for what we're trying to do here. So I'll also share that the US is lacking real examples of places that look like Lancaster that are leading on climate. So I believe that Lancaster is particularly relevant in this place and time. Lancaster is a meaningful scale. It's not too big, not too small. It's like a Goldilocks county. It is close to all these major metropolitan areas. We have a strong brand. When you go somewhere and say, I'm from Lancaster, people know what you mean. We've made a lot of really astonishing environmental progress. I talk about the work that we've done here locally for water quality. Farmers here are at 60% implementation rates for no-till and cover cropping. That's compared to like 5 to 8% in the Midwest. So There's just so much history of progress here in this place. The statistic about being demographically representative, if you look at the urban to rural population ratios in Lancaster, it's shockingly close to the US as a whole. I think the urban to rural divide in the US is one of the most defining factors that describes how things work here. And in that way, Lancaster is this important microcosm of how the rest of the US works. And then think about all the unlikely precedents. Whether it's refugee resettlement or we have the largest number of organic farms in any county in the US. We have some of the highest per capita density of benefit corporations. This place is awesome. We've done a lot of amazing things and we can do more. There's no reason why climate can't be another thing that we put on that list. So we believe that Lancaster is really uniquely positioned to demonstrate that it's possible to create jobs and build resilient communities while addressing climate change. Other way. Climate isn't too important to wait, and it's clear that we are the ones, collectively, that need to step up and create a more resilient future. So one of the things that gives me the most hope about this work is the awesome team that I get to work with here. Today you'll get to meet many of our team members and hear about several of the programs that we're developing for this year, places where you can get involved. People are often inspired by this hopeful message that we're not doomed and that there's something that we can do. But coupled with that needs to be all of us stepping up and really doing this stuff together. So you're going to get to meet a lot of different groups downstairs that are doing wonderful work on climate, and we're going to share a bunch of different ways that you can plug in. I will give a small preview on two of those here at the end of my time that I've been connected with. One of those is the Community Climate Fund. Some of you have known us for a while, have known that this is an idea we've been kicking around for a while, but this is designed to be a local carbon offset marketplace. So if you take a flight or take a trip or want to figure out, calculate all the emissions that you have in your household or business, you can pay for those emissions to fund local projects here in the community that are offsetting that carbon. We believe that when you can see that in our community, it really builds that connection and makes that really have value. So that's a project that Andrew Pauls-Thomas, wave, is really working on. We have a grant from the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture to interview businesses and really make that a reliable thing. But if you have ideas or other things that you want to share about that, talk to Andrew. And then the next one, we are really excited. We got a grant from the Lancaster County Community Foundation's Shaping Tomorrow Awards to work on a program called Energize Lancaster. So this is designed to bring together the City of Lancaster, Lancaster Community Action Partnership, and Zacatec Centro to really build a model for creating deep energy retrofits in homes here in Lancaster. We want to show that it's possible to create good jobs doing this work that saves people money and stops that $2.5 billion from leaving our county. We've seen that some families here in Lancaster are spending 16% of their income on energy. It's a huge burden, and as affordable housing is such a challenge here in Lancaster, we can't help but ask, like, how much is our energy costs worsening that housing affordability challenge? So we will be looking for people that want to have energy auditors and our home energy navigators come and help them out with their own home energy retrofits. So look out for more of that here soon. Thank you for your time. Aiden?
Thanks, Eric, for sharing our RegenAll story. And now it's time to talk about our own stories. I was inspired to start here by Cliff Lewis, who is a local author who wrote this amazing children's novel, We the Future. Yeah, great. Claps. I feel like I have like the climate Bibles here. In the book, the protagonist has to pull together his friends to act on climate. And he writes it almost like a heist action movie kind of style. And in order to get them involved, he realizes that he needs to figure out each of their stories, something called deep canvassing for those who knock doors. He finds out that plenty of his friends were actually affected by climate. Maybe they were refugees from an area experiencing severe drought, and as a result, there was civil unrest in that area. Maybe they experienced asthma from a nearby coal power plant. For me, part of my climate story, this is something I've thought about since I was a little kid, but actually seeing the devastating effects of Hurricane Helene in a place I once lived in western North Carolina was a huge wake-up call that no place is safe. Even high up in the mountains, there was utter devastation. And while I was no longer there, my aunt who lives there was without water for over a week. And many took a lot longer to get basic necessities. And she was one of the lucky ones. And luckily, and what I saw there, neighbors were helping neighbors. And I realized that community was the only solution. When your house is falling apart and you need someone to help at a time like this, I hope you trust your neighbors. And so this is a time for you all to share your own climate story. This is a time for you to meet other people right next to you. So take a moment to find someone, preferably someone you don't know, and you're going to tell them your climate story. We're going to give like 2 minutes for each person, and we have a little short train whistle to indicate that it's the other person's time to share. What does that sound like? And we have a long train whistle to bring us all back. And maybe if it takes a while, I'll use these chimes of change up here. So go ahead and turn to the person next to you and go ahead and pick one of you to start sharing your climate story. It could be as simple as why you're here today. All right. All right. I'm so glad you guys had a chance to talk to each other. I know there's more to say, and I'm sure we'll carry on that conversation downstairs. So Eric's going to run around with the microphone. If you feel compelled to share your story, just raise your hand. I see one in the back. Thanks for being brave.
My story is I'm part of the problem, more so than most people here. I was born shortly after World War II. As I was saying during the conversation here, it meant more consumer goods, more cars, bigger cars, more travel, more food, more. Now we have and all of it needs to be reckoning the fact that we need to be small ways to do this. Go to the local brewery and buy a growler, not six pack.
Thank you. We'll take one more.
Hi, my name is Bob Colorado. Used to be an environmental engineer in the earlier part of my life. Right now I'm retired. I've been studying climate change for the last 2 years. And I found that all these organizations, including yours, have their mission. Okay. But none of their missions, their primary mission, is to recruit. And so I saw an opportunity there. So I'm starting an organization to recruit people that want to either know more about climate change, and we can help teach them about that, or have them find their place, where it would be, whether it be Regional All of them, or some other organization, or perhaps they want to looking for an education, so come right in and to get an education in climate, or perhaps they're looking to change their careers. And there's unbelievable opportunities for related to climate for careers. It's just mind-boggling, and so I can help in that way. Right now, what I need is people to help build the infrastructure, the social media pages, and the website. If anybody's interested in learning more about that, please see me later. So I'd like to hear from you, and I'll help as much as I can. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, Nathan, you're on.
And now we're going to hear from Nathan. He's our director of faith-based programs.
Hi, friends. I'm here today because, like many of you, I believe that big challenges are best addressed in community. My name is Nathan Grieser. I joined RegenAll in September to help faith groups and nonprofits engage in climate action and eco-justice work. I believe in the potential for communities that are united by a common faith, a common belief, a common mission to be climate leaders in Lancaster County and to inspire similar actions in other places. This is what we can do together. So, what if Lancaster County's faith communities had resources to talk about sustainability with language that builds bridges across creeds and politics? What if church buildings were used throughout the week, becoming hubs for community, making good use of all that heating and cooling while also generating some income for congregations that may be struggling financially? What if faith communities set up carpools and encouraged biking and walking to gathered worship? What if we educated folks on opportunities for green burials and created more wild and sacred space for them in Lancaster County? What if the incredible nonprofits working at affordable housing in Lancaster had support to also make rental units more efficient so that the energy burden on low-income folks was not, as Eric said, up to 3 times higher than that of middle and higher income folks? What if we could eliminate electric bills altogether for low-income tenants with simple solar installations? These questions inspire me to do this work. We're already working on answers to some of these questions, and some of these remain hopes for the future. So if you're part of a faith community or nonprofit that wants to engage in climate action but has faced some kind of barrier, reach out to us. We can facilitate training and vision work. We can connect you with other people for ideas and inspiration. We can analyze your building and recommend improvements and contractors. We can help manage projects. We can identify incentives and funding opportunities and more. We're here as partners for any climate-related pursuit. While you're here today, be sure to check out displays from 2 local sustainability-minded faith communities downstairs. Landisville Mennonite and Brightside Baptist have been inspirations for me and are happy to share ideas and experiences with you as well. Thank you, Landisville and Brightside, for being here. The mission is manageable when it's shared, and the bar is lowered when you can follow someone who has already been where you want to go. I'm inspired by all of you here today, and have hope that our collective efforts will bring greater wholeness, peace, and justice to all members of the Lancaster community. Thanks.
Good afternoon. My name is Melissa Snavely. I serve on the Outreach Committee of RegenAll, and I'm one of the co-founders of the College Park Climate Action Neighborhood, inspired in part by the Hamilton Park Climate Action Neighborhood and from my work on the RegenAll Climate Action Neighborhood Playbook. Our College Park is not to be confused with the more famous College Park of Maryland, but the Lancaster City neighborhood of College Park. Our Climate Action Neighborhood consists of households and businesses that surround Buchanan Park and includes Franklin and Marshall College and its campus. We're fortunate in our Climate Action Neighborhood to have a wonderful mix of professionals, college professors, college students, artists, food truck owners, and retirees, much like myself, that support our work. So when I strong-armed my husband Doug into starting a Climate Action Neighborhood, a little over a year ago as we were making our way home from a cross-country trip, it was easy to imagine the built-in enthusiasm and support our neighborhood would have for organizing around climate issues. Our group just celebrated 1 year of community climate action. Thank you. To date, we have a mailing list right around 155 interested individuals. We've kept nearly 1,000 pounds of non-recyclable plastic from our incinerators, received 3 climate-centered grants, and are working on becoming designated as a National Wildlife Habitat Corridor. But that's our neighborhood. Like snowflakes, no 2 climate action neighborhoods will ever look the same, nor should they. So what might other cans look like? So your story might start with a group of your girlfriends who hold a clothing swap to help reduce the amount of clothing that ends up in our landfills. You have such a great time. Maybe there's a little wine involved. But from there, you organize a sewing repair workshop to emphasize reuse and sustainability. And your climate action neighborhood is born. Your story might center around the apartment building where you live, with limited public transportation and no safe and convenient place to leave your bike. So a few of you like-minded tenants organize a ride share and then develop a workable bike storage plan to present to your landlord, encouraging your neighbors to think about ways to reduce their carbon footprint around transportation. You have, by your work, just started a climate action neighborhood. Whether your neighborhood is made up of cul-de-sacs or your Wednesday morning pickleball group, just start the conversation. Once you've had a few affirming conversations, plan a gathering. Start with a size and scope that's comfortable for you. That might look like a formal organizational meeting or perhaps a potluck with casual conversation around climate issues. Maybe you hold a plant swap and encourage neighbors to consider creating pollinator gardens, or bring in a climate-centered speaker or writer with a follow-up Q&A, or host a documentary watch party with conversation afterwards. Be sure to communicate clearly about your first event. Use emails, social media, flyers, or even old-fashioned door hangers like our neighborhood did to get the word out about your event and encourage everyone to bring a friend. And at your event, be sure to get names and contact information. Then repeat and build. Continue those conversations. Find out what climate impact areas people are interested in, like food, land and water, materials, transportation, home energy, finances, education. Whatever it is, tap into those interests for your next gathering. Plan the next program based on that, encouraging leadership and co-leadership of that program. Get people invested in what you're doing, and always, always find ways to include kids. And again, I can't stress enough, communicate. Consider starting a newsletter to help amplify what your group has done and what's coming next. And again, be sure to get names and contact information. Keep building up that database. Repeat. It can be that simple. Now, for a few words of advice, if you're thinking about or decide to start a climate action neighborhood, and I highly recommend you do, don't underestimate the power behind shared purpose, even when the task seems overwhelming, which honestly, these days, a lot of things do feel overwhelming. We are all capable of so much more when we work together. And my number one piece of advice, listen carefully if you want to make a note of this, do. Consider serving food at all your programs. I mean, seriously, was the offer of pie being offered after this, was that what really brought you out tonight? No offense, Aiden. And as you find your climate action neighborhood growing and understand the collective power behind those numbers, you may find additional opportunities to engage with other organizations that do work to build and support resilient communities just like yours. This year, after completing a 6-week program focused on the multitude of plastic issues in our daily lives, our climate action neighborhood decided to launch an initiative called Red Rose Reuses. Education and outreach around climate issues can be game changers. We're partnering with other organizations and individuals to help create a more sustainable community by tackling single-use plastics in the city of Lancaster, starting with single-use plastic bags and by request only plastic utensils and straws. From there, we hope to eliminate polystyrene containers and get unneeded plastics out of Lancaster City schools. We hope many of you here today will consider joining us on this mission. I hope our College Park Climate Action Neighborhood story has given you something to think about today, and I encourage you to seek us out downstairs after the program, maybe while you're having that pie. Ask us questions, consider shadowing us on one of our events, sign a letter of support for Red Rose Reuses, but most importantly, get involved in community climate action. I guarantee you, and I think my overworked husband sitting in the back would agree, 100% you won't ever regret that you did something to help preserve our one planet. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa, for sharing. The College Park Climate Action Neighborhood was how I got involved with RegenAll, and I just became enamored with the idea of working with our neighbors. I grew up in that neighborhood, and I encountered through that program neighbors that I had never met before. So RegenAll can help your neighborhood do something like this too. You can use our 501c3 status to apply for grants, which Melissa has taken full advantage of, and we offer insurance and for events and accounting around tax time if you do have any sort of budget. We have a wide network and can connect you to presenters and resources. I also will personally help you apply for small grants if you'd like to get started on any of these projects. We are trying to make this program as accessible as possible. So if you're just interested in hosting one event or two, that is great. This last week, for example, we hosted an event at Manheim Township Public Library about tax rebates for things like solar, electric vehicles, and heat pumps. My email is in your program. I hope I won't regret this. So let me know if you're interested in organizing anything. So as you can see here, we have a growing climate action network between work we're doing with churches and neighborhoods, and I envision different climate hubs throughout the city and county in 2025 and going beyond into the future. This map will eventually be on our website too, and I hope I can help people plug into initiatives when they come to this area or people who are already here. So there are a bunch of different ways you can continue to connect with us beyond this event. We host a carbon neutral coffee the last Thursday of every month at 8 a.m. This is a more business-focused meeting, but all are welcome. And actually, the cohort that came out of this event developed what we called a Sustainable Business Resource Guide, and it is available at our table downstairs if you're interested. If you don't want to wake up that early, or are looking for a more casual venue to discuss these topics, we are bringing back an event called Green Drinks, which used to happen in Lancaster before COVID, and we're restarting it at West Arts Coffee and Bar area that will open somewhere around April. And each event there for Green Drinks will be themed around a different solution, which happens to be a pun on drinks being scientifically solutions. Okay, I'm glad someone got that. This will be a great way to get involved with the conversation, so stay tuned for that. And finally, if you want to spend more time with me or a leader in the community that wants to bring your voice or represent your community in the conversation, I recommend signing up to be notified about our Community Engagement Committee meetings. So we are relaunching our outreach committee as a community engagement committee, and I just want to hear from more people. I feel like there's a lot of people doing great work, and we want to connect a lot of these dots. It's a very low commitment, an hour-long online meeting once per month on Zoom. So typically every second Monday. Every second Monday at 7 p.m. We would like some more participation. So we have a sign-up sheet as you came in, and then you're welcome to sign up at our table if you missed that. Many of you have been asking about our annual climate summit. We moved it to the fall because there's so much good stuff happening during the spring in Lancaster. So stay tuned for more details on that. And also, we have a great group of volunteers that works with us at events like that. Again, you can sign up on that sign-up sheet. All right, so we're going to do one last sharing time. And I want you to take a look at the back of your program. I've very much been inspired by Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson in this book, and she has a solution for us here again. The climate Venn diagram combines things that need doing, things that we enjoy, and things that we're good at. We have a lot of work to be done, but we don't want to burn out doing it. So, for example, if I were to take myself, if you can't tell from centering a town hall around pie, I love food. As someone interested in regenerative agriculture, I know we need better food systems, and I want to use my skills of organization and imagination to accomplish that. So that's maybe my climate action. I did this exercise earlier at Leadership Lancaster, and someone who I was talking to there, he said he enjoyed playing soccer and hanging out with his friends. He decided that carpooling to soccer games was his climate action this year. This is just a guideline. Think about your climate action. Feel free to use the pens in your pews if there are some. And this will be, again, a neighbor sharing time. So we're going to take 1 to 2 minutes for each person. Same train whistle. And maybe some chimes. And we'll regroup after that. So go ahead and think about that and share that with a new neighbor if you can. All right. Do it again. Do it again. You can put the microphone next to the timer. We could do like one or two, you think? No. All right. That was good. Eric's actually a train. So we encourage you to continue these conversations downstairs after the event. Eric's gonna bring around the mic if you have. We have like one or two people who want to share their climate action this year. You can raise your hand. And thanks for being here. I see one in the back. Oh, yeah. I know Chad, one in the back, I think. Maybe. I don't know where Chad was. Maybe not. Oh, Tony. Oh, Chad's over there.
So my climate this actually started last year, but so I'm an Uber driver. I drive a lot, and at one point in time last year, I saw an e-bike close, and I was like, hey, whoa, maybe I can start commuting to work and at least offset my commuting miles to my day job. So my climate action for 2025 is to try and offset the vast majority of my commuting miles to and from my day job.
Thanks, Tony. All right. So for our second half of our program, we have, for the very first time, Climate Pie. Lancaster Pie and Coffee generously donated 6 pies, which are an amazing variety of flavors. I cut them up myself and to make this carbon inventory Venn diagram downstairs. So that's awaiting you downstairs. And we're going to have over 10 organizations represented at tables downstairs, so you can go ahead and talk to them at that point. And for our final send-off song, we have our very own Andrew Pauls Thomas, who's going to perform a song that he wrote after conversations during our climate summit last year in 2024, and it's very on the nose for what we're up to today. So everyone, welcome to the stage, Andrew Pauls Thomas.
Cool. So this is a church, and so corporate singing is a familiar thing to this space. So no matter if you consider yourself a singer, if you don't, is there another mic? This one has a red light on it. I'll start with the chorus, and I think you can just pick it up as you go along. Even if you don't consider yourself a singer, sing along. Tell me your story, sing me your song. What keeps you going? What keeps you strong? Knowing each other is how we belong. Tell me your story, sing me your song. Let's do that again. Tell me your story, sing me your song. What keeps you going? What keeps you strong? Knowing each other is how we belong. Tell me your story, sing me your song. There's a garden by the playground in the rain. There's a river running heavy through our veins. We reach out to each other, to ourselves, and to this place. Here comes the chorus. Tell me your story, sing me your song. What keeps you going? What keeps you strong? Knowing each other is how we belong. Tell me your story, sing me your song. We found each other facing towards the south. We found the love that's powering our town. One is lonely, two's a couple, three or more is a crowd. Tell me your story, sing me your song. What keeps you going? What keeps you strong? Knowing each other is how we belong. What keeps you going? Sing me your song. One more time, everybody. Tell me your story, sing me your song. What keeps you going? Knowing each other is how we belong. Tell me your story, sing me your song. That was poppin', so we got to do it one more. Tell me your story, yeah. Sing me your song. What keeps you going? What keeps you strong? Knowing each other is how we belong. Tell me your story, sing me your song. Tell me your story, sing me your song. Thanks for singing with me, everybody.
All right, that's all we have. You can follow us on social media, keep up with what we're doing. Thank you all for being here. You can join us downstairs. There's an accessible way to get down there over there. Back there is the main way to get down there. Thank you all for being here.